Last round. Fight!
Hello and welcome to the Last Round Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Saunders. Joining me as always, my co-host, Anton Austin. We're here at Bad Company Gym in Leeds to speak with a Muay Thai fighter and a Leeds fan, but we won't hold it against him. Joe Craven, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
So let's start off by talking about promotion. How did you celebrate?
Yeah, well, let's say it went down well. We're at Ellen Road, 2 nights on trial. Went down the night we got promoted when Huddersfield won, and then I went down to Ellen Road day after that as well, down to the statue, and then went to Millennium Square after. Let's say it got messy. It was good though, good fun.
So obviously you've been training at Bad Company Gym for a long time. What is it like training there? Like obviously there's a lot of experienced fighters here and stuff.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I were at a gym called the Thai before, down Halifax. I was there 4 till 15, so what's that, 12, 13 years? I was there like a fair old while, and then it was one of them. I'd ended up turning pro and fighting on Knockout 15, and just wanted that next step up. So I ended up coming to Badco, and at first, at 15, like you've looked up to these sort of lads as like heroes, like Liam, Jordan, at time Davey Mack, James Franz, stuff like that. So like when you walked in, it were a bit like, a bit starstruck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Richard kind of just threw me straight into deep end, like straight into sparring and stuff like that. Obviously, like I'd had a good junior career and stuff like that, but straight away just threw me in. I think my first round was like with George Berry, who was an A-class fighter back then, and he absolutely knocked me. One of them, as a kid, you know when you've had a good junior career, and as a junior, one of them, just a bit of a cocky shit, and just like throwing like kick after leg, kick left, right, left, right, left, right. So I tried that with him, and he just kicked me straight on my ass, mate. First thing I did, I was like, oh. And he just laughed and jumped up, and it was like, it was one of them. I just started straight in with fighters, and then obviously we've just grown this bond. So at first you were a bit starstruck, but like they're all just normal lads, you know what I mean? So it's not like anything different, and obviously now they're all my best mates. So
yeah, is there any pressure like when you first started fighting out of Bad Company, like on events and stuff? Was there pressure like knowing that you're fighting from the same gym as like Liam and Jordan and Andy, like?
See, I think it's self. It's pressure you put on yourself as such. Instead of that pressure of people looking at you and thinking, oh, he's Bad Company fight, he's going to be really good, blah, blah, blah. I don't think people think like that. It's more, oh, I'm from the same gym as like Liam and stuff, they're winning, I can't let them down, stuff like that. So then, I think I fought on Yoko within 6 months for being at Badco, and it was like, obviously I wouldn't say I'm sure as Liam and stuff like that. I'm on undercard. I didn't want to like show myself up.
Yeah, of course.
Because obviously fighting with them two, Liam and Jordan both on card as well, were a bit like, I don't want to show myself.
Had a busy day, didn't he? Fucking
yeah, I mean, I think that time there were me, Liam, Jordan, the leader, all fighting on it. So it was like, we're a busy old day. But I think most we've had on your cards before 6 or 7 in one night. We could all do that. But yeah, it was good all do that. But it were me, Liam, Jord, Malida, Tamara, Mateus, Emerson, all on the same night. Good do that. Good party after.
How do you prepare for fights? How many hours like a day do you train, and how many days do you recover, say, in like an average week of like a fight camp?
See, I don't have with recovery days. We don't have scheduled recovery days as such, because when we're here, we kind of like go with the flow as such. Every week's different.
Listen to your body a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So our recovery days are if Richard's either picking up us on us tiring, or we're feeling it still. So like we'll just say, look, I'm not coming in tonight, I'm knackered. So what we'll do is we'll train in the morning, train night, Monday to Friday, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays I usually like to say they're my strength conditioning days, so I'll do like strength conditioning. And Fridays usually I don't train in the morning, but I do boxing as well. Sometimes we go down to Four Corners with John Gillies, and then I also go to a geezer called Abid. He's Josh Warrington's padman. So I go work with him down at Dickie's gym. And it's just to sharpen up my hands and stuff like that. Obviously, you can't take everything into boxing, because obviously it's slightly different, but
Yeah.
using Abid and John, they've got an idea what Thai boxing is, and it's a case of they'll just taper it and what suits us, you know what I mean? So
And that's always a bit difficult, isn't it? Finding a coach who understands.
that's what I
the
mean.
sport.
A lot of if you go into a boxing coach nowadays and you go into boxing gyms, a lot of them old school and they're teaching their way and that's it.
Yeah.
As in, now you're getting more modern sort of trainers. They're happy to adapt.
Yeah.
Such like that, they know that there's things such as MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, so they're happy to help and adapt. But it's one of them. You just take bits and bobs and adapt it to your game.
Do you know when you do have recovery days, do you do like sauna sessions or ice baths or yoga or anything like that?
It depends. So we normally go to hot yoga down in town. I think it's called the Hot Room. We've done a few sessions in there, and I have a sponsor called Natural Remedy. So he does all the cupping, massage, hot stones, all that sort of stuff. So he sorts me out big time. So Shazad, if you're watching, mate, it's a shout out to you because you sort me out. But like stuff like that, it sorts you out massive. Like sometimes day after you might be a bit sore when you train in the morning, so you just take it a little bit lighter, and at night you sound again. But it's one of them, like your body does benefit from it after. Usually on the weekend we'll only train once, so what I'll try to do is I'll train in the morning, get my massage, and I'll have Sunday off. Straight back into a fresh week, so I'm not too sore. But it's one of them, it's like I say, it's just listening to your body. Sometimes, like, I know I do, and lads, Jordan does as well, but you know the heart rate monitors?
Yeah.
Sometimes by them, just by tracking them, you can, like, if your heart rate's like overly high some days, like, you know you're tiring, really, because I'll be doing sometimes I'll be doing the same sort of training. Like, gradually I should see my heart rate coming down, but if some days I'm seeing it coming up.
I've had exactly the same
Yeah.
myself, and I was thinking I should be getting fitter, it should be lower.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that,
just
and
them days you
still
need them
feeling-
rest. You don't want to peak too early, do you? So it's just one of them. But yeah, I definitely think the heart rate monitors now and science behind it. I think that's definitely like a bit of an advantage now for fighters. Obviously, back when I was a kid and stuff like that were unheard of.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
Even like in any sport now, it's massive in football as well. You
Yeah,
even see them training with
massive.
those like tight vest things on.
Yeah, with a little sports bras on.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Have you ever had any injuries with your shoulders or anything like that, with like rotator cuffs or anything?
See, this shoulder, just before I had my first fight on Yokkao, I fought a lad called Jordan Williams, who I ended up fighting on Yokkao for the first time. Again, we had a rematch, but without shin pads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I fought up there and he swept me, and I landed on my shoulder. And it dislocated it, and it were out for something like 6-7 months without me knowing. So what had happened was it dislocated, but the muscle, because it had been shocked, it ended up shocking round. Ended up carrying on fighting. And anyway, so carried on. After about 6 months, like my back were agony. Like to the point, I was only 14, 15. I'm like, I couldn't get out of bed. So anyway, I went to chiropractor. My back had gone like that, just because of my shoulder out. So what were happening was my back were compensating for it. So my spine were going like that. So it ended up being a case of literally, I couldn't run around like that. It was a case of being in swimming pool and like doing my running in swimming pool and stuff like that. Ended up doing that for about 3 or 4 months just to get it all sorted and stuff. But it's one of them. And then my knee, I've had bursitis on my knee before. That was a nightmare. I don't even know how I got that. It was burst a sack and it was like all flabby.
What about elbows, anything with elbows?
I've always been alright.
Yeah. The reason why I said about shoulder, because I had a rotator cuff in my left side, even just holding pads. Someone take a pad when they wasn't ready, and
It's a nightmare, innit?
using it. And
People don't realise like
nightmare.
the knocks and stuff you take. Like obviously I PT on side with Thai boxing, which kind of suits me because that means I can train around it and stuff.
Yeah.
But people don't realise like the knocks your body takes just holding pads and stuff 24/7, man.
Yeah.
It's tiring.
What about when you've got obviously a fight coming up and stuff? Do you take these sessions a little bit different to accommodate you? Obviously not accommodate you. You've got to meet obviously the
Yeah.
clients.
So what I do is
Take your foot off it a little
usually my sponsors help me out a lot. So usually one of my sponsors, Jeff at Yorkshire Mafia, he usually helps to support me and stuff like that, and that means I can drop my PTs quite a lot. So like last 2 weeks I won't do any PTs.
bit. Nice, that's good.
As in coming up to fight. Sometimes I use my PTs as it's bad saying this, but I use my PTs in my own training and such. like obviously with my PTs and stuff, I'll be sparring and stuff like that. So I'll try certain moves on my PTs. So if they were, obviously they're not the same sort of level as such as I'd be fighting, but you're kind of getting a practice in, still throwing it, and then I'm still teaching that sort of stuff to my PT. It's one of them, like, you can't practice one thing and not preach it something different, you know what I mean? What I preach is what I practice, it's the same sort of thing. So like when we're up there, like, I'll teach them one thing. When I'm sparring with them, I'll teach it, I'll do the exact same sort of things, because I'm not going to tell them to do it one way and then me do it a totally different way. They'll be like, hang on a minute, you're never doing it right. You know what I mean? So it's one of them, but I've found that when I started teaching, my game started improving a lot, just because I started to understand the moves a lot more. Like seeing Liam and that teach every day, you kind of get a bit of an insight as for why he's teaching that way, and you know what I mean? As in, now I'm starting to break down the moves, I'm starting to understand why my moves are working like that and such and such. So yeah, I've found that it's helped me massively when I'm fighting, definitely.
It's really good that you've got sponsors as well who can support you.
That's what I mean, like,
the last few weeks when you
let's face it, Thai boxing, there's no money in it. Like, if we want to make money, we need them sort of sponsors to help us, because the money's, let's face it, at the top, one championship, stuff like that. If you want to get there, it's an expensive game if you're going to get there. Like, honestly, fair play to these lads who are sponsoring us, because, you know what I mean, there's not much give back unless you get to the top. So obviously you've got to have faith in these lads who are getting there.
It's like we had Mari Diedrich, I know you fought him.
Yeah.
And he said that when he fought you and Jake Purdy, like I think he said he got like £200-300 for each fight. Like,
it's no, mate, yeah.
You were both like number ones when he fought you. It's like
when I turned number one, my first fight at number one, I got 600-700 quid. And it was like, hang on a minute, what? And then eventually I ended up getting Yusuf, and my money started going up a little bit more. Then that's when I started it, like, boosting up a bit, and now I can demand a little bit more money. But it's one of them, like, there's not enough money, especially in this country. There's not enough money, like, for promoters, especially over here. Like, the money's coming from ticket sales. You're not getting no pay-per-view buys and stuff over here like Glory are doing. You're getting money off ticket sales. So it's one of them. If you don't sell tickets, you're not getting on shows. Simple as that. And it's a cruel world. Like, it shouldn't be like that, but it's exactly the same as boxing. You don't sell tickets, you're not getting on big shows. So
it's difficult, isn't it?
it's one of them.
Especially even, for example, if you're a foreign fighter, imagine you just come over to bad company, you know, you've not got many family over there, friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're a great fighter, you know, you're trying to justify to promote
exactly.
tickets you can sell.
It's, for example, Meerkats who train with us, Matthias and Zoltan, the two Hungarian lads, they're only 19, 18, 19, 20. 20 I think they might be. Two twins, but they've moved from Hungary to here just to train with us. But the way they brand themselves, like, they've branded themselves like the Meerkats, Meerkat Army, stuff like that. Mate, their fan base is growing more and more day in, day out, and that's literally just on how they're promoting themselves. And now I think they're doing nutritional advice for people and stuff like that. Like, they graft, they both graft, mate. And I think what a lot of younger fighters don't realise is social media is powerful, man. I don't care what people are saying, but, like, modern times now, social media is powerful. Like, as fighters, you need to use it. Like, look at Liam. He's got, what, nearly 500k followers.
Massive.
Nearly 500k followers now. That's why Liam's getting the fights, one championship, and people want to see him fight, and that's why, like, don't get me wrong, like, all his career has strived, he's had to graft, you know what I mean, to get that following, but he's also pushed himself and developed on social media as such, which has then allowed him to get to the platform he's at now.
I think it's great to see that just after all the years of hard work and sacrifice, you know, fighters like Liam getting that big following.
It just proves it can happen, doesn't it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. So when you're preparing for a fight, what would you say is the worst part of training camp for you?
Weight cut, 100%. People know that. I cut a lot of weight. It's getting better as I'm getting older. Like, before, God, I used to be scandalous for it. I used to be cutting a lot, and I used to cut it quick. But as I'm getting older now, I work with a girl called Cara. She's my nutritionist, and I work with a company called Clean Eats Kitchen. So what they basically just prep all my meals. Yeah, sort it with them. I'll work with Carrie and what I should be eating, blah, and it just makes my life so much easier. But before, like, it's the same again with sponsors. Like, them sort of sponsors help me.
Yeah.
As in, back then it was just a case of you'd do what you research or you'd starve yourself. It's one of them. Like, we didn't have the knowledge before, especially when I first turned pro at 15. We were like, didn't really have the knowledge, so it was like a case of starving ourselves. As in, now you start focusing on strength conditioning, but if you want your strength conditioning to go well, you need to be fueling yourself well, repairing yourself with your proteins and stuff like that. So it's one of them. I think the older you get, the more wiser you get a little bit, and it's learning off them experiences. Like when I fought Purdy, I messed up on weight big time. Like I came back from Thailand, I had a lot of weight to lose in the space of 2 weeks, and it was like, I lost it, don't get me wrong, but I woke up next day and I couldn't open my eyes. My mum thought I'd had an allergic reaction, so I shouldn't be saying this, but on the day at fight, I was just smashing like Piriton and stuff like that, just like, because I thought I had an allergic reaction. And obviously Piriton makes you drowsy.
Yeah.
So then I'm having caffeine tablets to try and wake me back up, so I'm on Pro Plus as well.
Downers and uppers.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got one thing going down, one thing going up. And like, that's why for that fight, like, first 3 rounds probably did cruise, and then I crashed. That's why if you watch that fight again, worst fight ever in history. Like, it was just, I just crashed completely, and it was like.
Did you get the weight back on after the weigh-in? Okay.
Well, I didn't really get it back on at all. I think I put on 3 kilos, 2 kilos, if that. Usually I put on like 6, 7 kilos. So to get on, only put on 2 kilos, I was a bit like, what's going on here? And then after the fight, I couldn't leave my bed. I ended up absolutely knackered. I went to hospital and stuff like that. I was in my bed for like 2 weeks. Couldn't get out of bed, couldn't celebrate, no, but I was in bed, absolutely knackered. And what had happened was I'd run my body down that much, like my body just took shock to when I like decided to put some water and stuff back into me. My body just took shock, which then could have affected my kidneys and stuff like that, and that's when it thing. So that were a big lesson.
Did you ever get any like backache or anything like that when you couldn't weight on the day?
Not really.
Like that, or?
Not really. Thinking back, I probably would have done when I was a bit younger, but it's one of them, when you're young, you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting a bit older, you're not getting away with it, you know what I mean? Them sort of lessons, them sort of experiences, you're getting punished for them. You know what I mean? As in, when you were younger, you kind of get away with it, but now you're starting to get exposed for it and stuff like that. That's why I'm quite open when I say, like, I knackered up on that time completely, and that's taught me a bit of a lesson now. So if I'm cutting weight.
Would you say most of your difficult weight cuts have been strictly down to your diet, or would you say, you know, you've not drunk enough water,
I'd probably say diet for me. I'm one of them. I'll leave it too late, and before I didn't take the advice off people. It was like, I wouldn't go to a nutritionist and stuff like that, so I was doing it off my own back. My mum would help me, but we don't know nutritionists and stuff like that. Like, we don't know fully thing. It's just what you read on frigging Google, innit, you know what I mean? These sort of people have got PhDs and stuff in it, you know what I mean? So it's like, I ended up working with Carrie, and she just helped. Like, I think one of my coaches, Dan Mitten, he did like a bit of a comparison of working before, like working with Carrie and working with him, to like literally a year after, and the change in my body's like absolutely mad. Like, honest to God, you couldn't believe it, and it was like, that's when I started to see, like, actually this sort of stuff does work.
Yeah.
So since then I've always used them.
You know, you were talking before about the Jake Purdy fight, and like you said, it was like the worst fight ever to watch. Like, do you watch your own fights back and like analyse them to see like where you went wrong, even if maybe you won?
To be honest, I watch quite a lot of fights back. I always do that just for the sake of, I like to see what I've done well and what I need to improve on, more on what I need to improve on. Like, I don't want to make them mistakes again, you know what I mean? Like, when I fought Purdy, especially when I were coasting, like, I was landing clean, moving fine, as in when I got tired, I started to just go sloppy. Instead of keeping my shape, even though I was tired, really, it's more an experienced fight. You should be keeping your shape, moving off, and, you know, clinching up and, you know, buying that time when needed. But instead I was just going sloppy. Essentially I was just letting batter me. 4th round when I crashed, and it was just like, what's going on here? Even at 5th round, I kind of just went kick for kick. Probably nicked it on points in 5th round, but it was one of them. Like, you learn them. I feel like watching them back, you kind of learn from your mistakes a little bit more, and that's when you start to. Next time you're in gym, you want to make them mistakes like correct.
Yeah.
You don't want to make them again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So obviously you fought Niall Brown, who's now the number 1 at your weight. Is that a fight you like to have again, or are you just thinking of like different?
100%. I think plan is to fight him again back in March. I think probably get another fight in before then. I think it was just a bit of a stupid fight to take. Everyone knows how unorthodox Niall is. I fought Yusuf fight before that, 11 months before. Ended up getting injured. Out for 11 months. Ended up slipping a disc in my back, and I was out for 11 months. And I know some people say ring rust, it does affect you. Some people say ring rust doesn't affect you. I can speak first time, ring rust does affect you. I went into that fight.
Your first fight back after?
First fight back after 11 months, yeah. I went to fight 3 or 4 times since then. I went to fight George Jarvis, cancelled because of my back. I went to fight Alex McGregor, that's his name, yeah. That got cancelled because of my back. I think I went to fight someone else as well. Yeah, well, I went to fight, what's his name? Swedish kid. That'll come to me. Emil Flystam. I went to fight Emil Flystam for European title on Andy's show. Got cancelled. All because of my back, so I was out for 11 months. Affected my training, ended up going to California, William and that. We did bits and bobs of training out there, but not massive because my back was knackered. Got my back sorted and stuff like that. First fight back, I've probably gone in against essentially probably the most unorthodox fighter in the country at the minute. Let's face it. And to be honest with you, like I'll comfortably say this, I can beat Niall happily. I've watched many of his fights and I know full well that I can beat him, and I think anyone who watched that fight on that day knows that were me fighting to my top. I think everyone's seen me at my top, and like I say, I've been in there many a times and people have seen me at that level. But I just work myself, I think.
Was your back playing on your mind at all, do you think?
Not so much playing on my mind, but I remember being in fight and it was like, first round he caught me and I just felt a bit uncomfortable, thinking like my nerves were just playing constantly, like it was like 11 months out. I was thinking I don't want to, I sell a lot of tickets, you know what I mean? I was thinking I don't want to let anyone down, stuff, I don't want to get injured, all that sort of stuff. And then round two, if you watch it back, I won comfortably round 2. I go back to my corner. If you watch back in corner, I'm stressing in my corner. Niall's cool, calm and collected, as I usually would be. That's when I start coming into the fight, especially. Like, usually most of my knockouts come round 3, round 4. So it's like round 2, and then I'm still stressing. I've just won a round. It's like, what's going on here? Then round 3, I just got cut. It's one of them. Like, I was just silly.
In your corner at that time, Liam was fighting as well.
Richard were in it. Andy were in it, and I think James France were in it as well.
What was the advice they were giving you at that time? You know, when you're stressing.
Yeah, just to calm down.
Yeah.
Get behind your jab and calm down, which I should have done. But instead, I went to try have a war with him. Yeah. I don't know what were up with me. When really, if you see him round 2, I clinched him all over the place. I threw him all over the place in clinch, and then I've gone out round 3, and they ended up cutting me up. Yeah. Rightfully so. Like, I seen an opportunity with there and he took it.
Any arguments with the stoppage or anything, or any dispute?
Nah. Did you see that cut?
Yeah, I did see it.
No chance, mate. Jesus, fair play, Ricky. You called it right. Like, it was one of them. Listen, Niall, he did the job, you know what I mean? But I can 100% say I'll be back for him.
Do you feel, obviously being the UK number 1, and like you just touched on briefly fighting Yusuf, you know what I mean? For those who don't know Yusuf, how do you pronounce his second name?
Yusuf Bouganem. So, like I say, pound for pound number 1. He was like, let's face it, he's got WBC, ISKA, he's got Rajadamnern title, Lumpini title, Omnoy title.
Been in there with him.
He's got, you know what I mean, he's got every title.
Age still, and what you've accomplished.
Like I say, it was a week after my 21st, and it was like, I think everyone who watched that fight saw like I'm not at a place with them sort of lads. Like, I'd probably say I were winning. I won round 1, I won round 3. Round 2 were a bit like that. Round 4 obviously stopped me, but.
Do you feel pressure then when you come back? So obviously fighting Yusuf, you know,
It's one of them.
Be a big confidence boost. But when you're back in the UK, Yakao, a lot of tickets.
It's one of them. I've always said that. I always feel pressure anyway. I don't like letting people down. Obviously, when you get to that level, you get to UK number 1 and stuff like that. You see, everyone's after you.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's face it. Everyone saw them polls and stuff. What people were doing over Christmas on like Siam Boxing stuff like that. Everyone wanted my fight. They wanted me versus Niall, me versus George, me versus Owen, me versus such and such. And we're just getting listed off my name every single time, and I'm thinking, well, it's a good laugh, innit? Everyone wants me. As in now, I've lost that one fight, and it seems to be like everyone's forgot about me. So to be honest with you, I'm quite enjoying pressure being on.
Like a little bit of pressure.
Yeah. So I'm just happy ready to come back and just burst back onto the scene again.
So you talked about having like a lot of pressure fighting on like Yakao and stuff like that. If you fight abroad, do you think there's a lot less pressure involved because you're not really selling tickets and stuff?
I think a lot of it losing that pressure is you haven't got that target on your back. When you go abroad, when you're over here, especially when you're UK number 1, all eyes are on you. Like, let's face it, everyone's tuning in to watch that fight. Everyone wants that number 1 spot. You go abroad, you ain't got that pressure of you're going to lose your number 1 spot. When it's a case of when you're starting to fight higher level, like i.e. world ranking, stuff like that. So when I was fighting Yusuf, the pressure was that green belt. If I lose, I ain't getting that belt. You know what I mean? But I've had fights before where I've been fighting, like, as I was still coming up and fighting abroad, I fought a lad called Francesco De Falco, fighting him on his own show over in Italy, and everyone knows what it's like in Italy. Like, usually you need to knock him out to get a friggin' win. You probably still won't get a draw, you know what I mean? It's a nightmare, but it's one of them. But I went out there, I was still young, unknown to it a bit. I didn't have no pressure because it was just like, I wanted to go there for a fight. I see going abroad as holidays. You know what I mean? Even though you're there to do a job fighting that, mate, I'm there, I'm sightseeing and everything. Like, I'm there for an holiday.
Kind of just flies, innit?
That's what I mean. You expect, like, you enjoy it. You've done hard work at home. It's easy work when you get into there. You know what I mean? So, but as in when you're over here, you're pressured selling tickets, you're pressured promoting, you're pressured make it, well, not making work 'cause that's the same anyway, but you're pressured because people want your number 1 spot, and it's like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I'm only getting paid X amount of pounds. Like, this isn't worth this pressure.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it helps because obviously to get to that next level, you need to do them sort of fights.
How many fights have you had now in A-class fights? Well, professional fights?
I won't be able to say A-class. Professional, I've had 33. Yeah, 6 losses I've had now. I won't even be able to tell you how many A-class I've not caught. And I had my first A-class when I was 16 out in Italy.
Nice.
That were not allowed against Francesco De Falco. I fought him for a title out there. I got a bit trigger happy with elbows. It's one of them when it's your first one. If you watch the video, like, it's so funny. I think I threw, at one point I just grabbed on and threw like 9 or 10 elbows. Funny, man. Honestly, it was funny. But it's one of them. That's all part of learning, part of experience of it. You know what I mean? But it's just one of them.
So whilst we're talking about fighting abroad, have you fought in Thailand?
Yeah.
Would you recommend people? Do you think it's like a valuable thing for people to do, or do you think it's dependent on the person?
It's one of them. Liam talks about it a lot, and I probably haven't fought enough out there to get these experiences as such. But I've been out there enough. But you do get that life experience. You do have weird stories, stuff while you're out there. But it's like that nowadays. You're not making enough money for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Thailand's getting expensive. You know what I mean? Like, flights alone out there. What you're paying now, £900,000 with your flights in your hotel, and it's like, plus training as well. If you're not sponsored or all like that, and you haven't got a gym sponsorship, you're paying for your training and stuff as well. Like, it's expensive, and fighting don't cut it out there. Like, you're not making a lot of money out there. Like, fair play if you're getting a gym sponsorship and put your fighting, then a lot of your money's going back to the gym and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, money's getting a lot better. Like when I first started fighting A class to what I am now, like money's got a lot better. Nowhere near the standard it should be. Promoters, if you're watching, but it's one of them. It has improved, and it's still on the up. Look at one championship now. These fighters on there who have like probably the same fights as me, if not less, and they're getting 5k plus a fight, and it's like that's the sort of money you need if you're doing them sort of fights. If you could do, I don't know, 4 fights a year, that's 20 grand plus your PTs and stuff like that, or your second job or whatever you're doing. Like you're making enough money to then make a living at fighting. So when you are fighting higher level, look at the champions on one. Some of them getting 50 grand. I think Petrosian's getting 50 grand a fight. If not more. Well, exactly, $1 million. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. That's when it is worthwhile. And
do you get any bonuses in one championship for like?
I'm not sure.
Or winning and stuff like that?
I'm not sure. But it's one of them. It'd be nice if you were.
It's interesting, like, so you've got, say, someone like Paul Kavich or whatever, who would like fight once maybe every year or two and get like a couple of grand, but then you'd have another fighter, say, who might fight once every couple of months, getting like, say, 800. So obviously they are getting more money in the long run, like over the space of a year, but they're taking like a lot more risks along the way. Like if you get injured in that first fight and you're only getting 800 for the year, like, you know what
it's
I mean?
one of them. How much do your coaches value you? I know that sounds a bit mad, but if you're lower level and stuff like that, you need to be having them fights. Like when I first started turning pro, like I was fighting once every 2 months, 3 months. As in now, like I do about maybe 4 fights a year, 3 fights a year max. And it's a case of your promoters, your managers and stuff need to be pushing that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like look at Richard, he looks after us now, and it's like he won't accept stupid offers because he knows it's not worth it. But you'll see some coaches they'll have like even in Thailand as such, like they'll have them fighting week in week out, and they're not getting that much money. Is it worth it if you're then getting cut? Because then your cuts like freaking hell, look at that. And I'm with that for the rest of my frigging life. You know what I mean? Like it's one of them. Is it really worth getting scarred for the rest of your life and stuff like that?
For like 100 quid or whatever you're getting out
Yeah,
there.
exactly. You know what I mean? Well, even over here, some fight.
Yeah.
I've seen some shows where they're fighting A class and they're getting like 400 quid. You know what I mean? It's one of them. I think my first A class fight I got 450 quid, 500 quid. I wouldn't even, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even think twice about that now. There's no chance, but it's one of them. I think it's part of the learning process.
Yeah, like you said, starting out, you might have to get the experience to take them smaller, obviously, paydays.
Exactly. You need that experience to like, obviously master your craft and stuff like that, and essentially get that experience to then build your name, demand more money, build your profile, demand more money. So it's one of them.
I think it's important you've got a coach like yourself, you know, who will look out for you. You know, he's been in the game a long time. He's got high profile fighters. You know.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that experience of working.
Over his eyes, you know.
That's what I mean. And a lot of promoters have worked with Richard. He's got that experience, and that he's already got that sort of relationship with promoters where they don't take piss, he don't take piss. You know what I mean? And they've kind of got that mutual agreement. As in, some obviously new gym owners were coming through, like they'll need to build them relationships with promoters. So it's a case of just getting your right manager, getting your right gym owner or whatever, and making them bonds as such. Like obviously everyone knows Badco, Yokao, we've got quite a good relationship, hence why there's always 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 fighters on their shows all the time, and that's because we've had a continual relationship for the past 8 years or whatever it is. So it's just a case of just keeping that relationship and like not taking piss as such. I think.
Are you sponsored by Yakao?
I am, yeah.
What do you get out of that?
So for me, it's just equipment, and then when I go over to train at the centre and stuff like that, all my training sorted and stuff like that. Yeah. So obviously when you're training out there, you're training with like Sanchai, my main trainer out there, Pech Moncon, who were multiple time stadium champion and stuff like that, and obviously he's a bigger boy now, fights at like 70, 72 kilos, so it's perfect for me. But it's just an absolute beast in mate. He looks after you, and there's Jack, Sing down, all them sort of boys. So you're in good hands, yeah, you're in good hands, especially if you're a fighter and like for us as well, we're sponsored by them. Like, Yokkal then tell them like, no, look, these are fighting. You need to look after them. You know what I mean? So you especially, so you especially know like when you go out there, you get in a camp. As in now, you'll be going out to some gyms, see you as tourists. Even though you're out there doing a training camp, you'll be there for a month and they'll be like, oh no, tourists, stuff like that. And they'll probably like lay off it unless you're throwing money at them. But of course, with us, obviously we fight for Yokkal. They want to scratch our backs a bit, so.
Did they let fight at the Yokkal? Like some gyms in Thailand, you know, they let people come over for a month and have a couple of fights and so on. Did they do that at that Yokkal? Not really.
Not so much. No, not so much. See, not so much. They mainly stick, especially with stadiums. We stick with it being a Bangkok gym as well. They stick to their boys fighting like Rajadamner and stuff like that. So they're Thai boys, and then obviously they'll do a lot of European shows or America or whatever they do. So they focus on the big sort of shows. I think usually it's more of the smaller gyms. Obviously, Yokkal are making an absolute killing now, and they don't need to be doing like tourist fights. You know what I mean? Pulling that name of the gym down. As such, they want to keep a nice high level and keep a sustainable high level. So I feel like they want to keep that premium sort of quality of fighting, training. Obviously, the gear as well. As in other gyms, you'll see them going out there and, oh yeah, you can fight tonight. And you'll be fighting in a bar for 200 baht, you know what I mean? What's the point?
It's mad, isn't it, how people, because I've met people myself when I've been there who've had a lot more fights than me, and they've won the load by knockout, and then some of the
and then you find out all these knockouts there, and it'll be Tim, Tuk Tuk Driver, you know what I mean? Mr. Chat, who was also pizza maker down, frigging Soy 22, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, these are nobodies, you know what I mean? So, it's one of them. That's why records nowadays, like, do you trust the records? Like, essentially everything you need to find is on YouTube nowadays. So, you find a fighter, I think it's important to do your research on these fighters.
Yeah, definitely.
So you talked before about your PT, and is that something that in the future you would like to do full time, or?
Well, I'm full time in future. I want to be retired round the pool with a friggin' Ferrari, but it's one of them. It's look at Liam now. He's got his website and stuff like that.
Yeah, doing really well.
That's what I mean. He can rely on his website and stuff like that to make money. I think PTing, once again, it's just that experience of gaining that experience of teaching. You know what I mean? But I think eventually I'll use that experience and maybe move on to something like Liam's doing, website, or go on to seminars and stuff like that. Like, I teach seminars like it is now, but not nowhere near to scale like Liam's doing them, where he's doing them every weekend in different countries and stuff like that. But I want to use that experience and then maybe one day maybe either open a gym or do something like that, I think.
That's what I kind of meant with by full time. Like, do you want to, like, you know, coach and open a gym? That's what I kind of meant.
Yeah, I think maybe one day, but for now, I think I'll just stick to fighting.
I think it's great, just like you said, when you went to, is it California, you said,
Yeah.
Just, you know, obviously day in, day out, you're with Liam and the guys there at the gym, but going over there, it's just networking. This is just
that's what I mean, you're making. So we went out to a CSA gym out in California, do a thing called Coaches Clinic. People come from all over the world. There were UFC fighters there, there were coaches there. Like, that's where I met Tom Willock. Obviously, he's out in Norway. He's got a gym out there, and you're meeting all these different people. It also boosts your name. You know what I mean? So I'm there I was there helping Liam teach a seminar. You know what I mean? That's then boosting my name to people from California, different parts of America, different parts of Europe, like Damien Almos and stuff like that. That's when I got introduced to them. You know what I mean? So it's good to be out there to then like make friends with them, and then eventually that's when I'll start, hopefully, teaching seminars at their gym, stuff like that, and building them relationships. Like I said,
networking, building relationships, could possible title fight or something.
100%, yeah. And then it's also like it's gaining that experience of Liam. He's good at his craft. You know what I mean? Why not take tips of when he's teaching seminars, such and such? Take little tips on how he teaches these seminars. You know what I mean? Plus, I'm still learning new moves.
Yeah, definitely.
Like doing them sort of moves. Like every time I've seen one of his seminars, I've seen a different move every time. So it's like that's just another move to go into my inventory.
It's probably stuff that he's not done for years that he might do in a seminar.
That's what I mean. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So Do you have any favourite fighters that you like watching, past or present?
I say this all the time, but I probably shouldn't. I say Fabio Pinker, obviously he beat Liam, but he's just so slick, mate. Everything he does is just so cool, calm, collected. He'll land, and if you always notice, mate, he never ever looks bad. Ever. He's always mate, his hair looks slick. I feel like he's got a friggin' hairdresser in corner. He'll do his hair for him, but it's like he always looks slick. He always looks time, and like if you ever watch him when he goes into a fight, he'll go back to his corner. They're chatting in corner. They're not even like, there's no stress. They're like, oh, what do I need to do, buddy? They're literally having a casual chat like me and you now. Like we're just having a casual chat. It's exactly the same. And I just like how composed he is all the time, and I like how versatile he is. He can clinch, he can kick, he can box. You know what I mean? He can go southpaw, orthodox. You know what I mean? He's the man in there, let's face it.
So you talked about some of your sponsors. Do you want to like rattle them all off and shout them all out?
So some of my sponsors is Jim King, Yorkshire Mafia, Natural Remedies, Rebel Gum Shields, Alkalised Water, Clean Eats Kitchen. Am I missing any? Probably am. Car Fume. See, you had to put me under pressure, didn't you? Had to put me under pressure. What else have I got on there?
You're doing well though. Every person we've had on's be like, oh yeah, if anyone wants to sponsor me, let me know.
Done a lot there. Muscle Gun. Is there any more? I think that's all of them. Yeah, I'm a bit of a sponsor, Rob, but I'll happily take on more sponsors and I will post you on my Instagram. Just hit me up.
Wicked. Well, thank you for having us down.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah, man. Cheers.